Time Traveler presents FPJ Old Movies Collection.
'80 Movies of FPJ. Aguila. Aguila was a Filipino movie directed by Eddie Romero, the National Artist for Cinema and Broadcast Arts, 2003. The said movie was considered as a classic and an epic work of art by a master storyteller. The cast of characters of the said movie included the following Filipino actors and actresses from the silver screen, television, and stage plays: Fernando Poe Jr., Amalia Fuentes, Christopher de Leon, Elizabeth Oropeza, Eddie Garcia, Jay Alagan, Chanda Romero, Charo Santos, Daria Ramirez, Celia Rodriguez, Orestes Ojeda, Susan Valdez, Sandy Andalong, Johnny Delgado, Conrad Poe, Roderick Paulate, Ruben Ruscha, Dave Brodette, Ricky Rivero, Ricky Sandico, Ben Cervantes, June Gamboa, Lito Anzurez, among others. The story was about the main character, Daniel Aguila, played by Poe, whose age in the timeline of the movie is 88 years old. The character and later his family were able to witness and live the several events in Philippine history through generations. Daniel was found by his eldest son Mari, played by De Leon, towards the end of the movie alive, and is staying with the itis, where the former was able to adjust with his new environment and learn their ways of life, tradition, and culture. Aguila was noted for having scenes of flashbacks in connection with the present time setting of the movie, where the audience will be able to relate the events between the two timelines. The flashbacks began when Danielito, played by Aga Molak, in his screen debut where he was billed using his real name as Ariel Molak, found a book from the attic of the house of the elder Aguila about the life of his grandfather, which was written by her grandmother, Daniel's wife, played by Santos. As he began reading its first few lines aloud in front of his relatives, scenes from the past were shown. There were scenes that the audience can relate to at once, while there were some wherein voiceovers by Santos were heard which served as narrations for the explanations of the events unfolding. The movie was released on February 14, 1980. Ong Leon at Ong Cuting. Ong Leon at Ong Cuting, 1980, stars Fernando Poe Jr. and Cheryl Cruz, with Sandy Andalong, Leopoldo Salcedo, Dincio Padilla, directed by Armando Herrera. Date release June 12, 1980. Calibre 45. Calibre .45 inch, 1980. Stars Fernando Poe Jr. and Lito Lapid, with Jennifer Cortez, Bambi Arambulo, Paquito Diaz, Dincio Padilla, Romeo Rivera, Dick Israel, and Mary Walter. Special participation of Eddie Garcia, directed by Nilo Saiz. Date release September 5, 1980. Ong Aguila at Ong Falcon. Ong Aguila at Ong Falcon, 1980, from FPJ Productions. A Margarita presentation. Release date October 16, 1980. Screenplay Fred Navarro. Music Hernani Cuenco. Direction Armando A. Herrera. Starring Fernando Poe Jr. and Tony Ferrer. Also starring Bambi Arambulo, Paquito Diaz, Leopoldo Salcedo, Dincio Padilla, Jose Romulo, Victor Bravo, Robert Talabes, and Nick Romano. Guest stars Connie Reyes, Ana Gonzalez, Myrna Velasco, Liza Alindigan, and Jillian Kessner. Ong Panday. Panday is a blacksmith whose real name is Flavio. When a meteor fell from the sky one night, he forged the metal from the meteor into a dagger, the Balara. When he raises the dagger to the sky, it magically grows into a sword. He uses this magical sword to fight the evil Lizardo, Max Alvarado, and other supernatural beings. Eventually, Lizardo and his minions are destroyed. Ong Panday was released on December 25, 1980. Directed by Ronaldo Reyes, FPJ. Ong Panday. 1981 nominee Famas Award. Best Supporting Actor Lido Anzurez. 1981 winner Famas Award. Best Child Actor, Bintot Jr. 1981 nominee Famas Award. Best Story, Carlo J. Caparas. The movie was followed by 3 other sequels, also featuring Poe as Flavio. Ang Pagbabalik ng Panday, 1981. Ang Panday, Ikatlong Yugto, 1982. And Ang Panday 4, Ikaapat na Aklat, 1984. FPJ movies released in 1981. Iskarakatoy. Iskarakatoy tells the story of a Batangueno who ventures to Manila to sell mosquito nets and blankets. Can he get out of the hardships of life? Released in 1981. This is Dencio Padilla's first starring role, and he is supported by an all-star cast and cameos such as Fernando Poe Jr. and other big names in local cinema and sports. Directed by Danny Ochoa. Date released February 13, 1981. Sierra Madre. Sierra Madre. FPJ plays an undercover soldier who pursues a bandit that out to be a labor leader. In this movie, FPJ's character as a security guard in a plantation was recruited by the leader of the workers, Revilla, in the said plantation to join the rebel movement. The security guard was a former student activist and became at home with his newfound comrades, who were former student activists, like him, led by the character played by Rez Cortez. It was later revealed that FPJ is in fact an undercover intelligence agent sent by the military authorities to infiltrate a group led by a man called Commander Fanta. The said man was none other than Revilla's character. However, the rebel leader was turning away from the ideology of the movement and instead wanted to go to another direction, which is turning into banditry. He showed it to his comrades when he ordered them to kill their fellow rebels who were former student activists, who left the group after being disillusioned with the change of his direction. The intelligence agent found out that his missing sister, Rosemary de Vera, was taken away by the group when it held up a bus which was traveling in the countryside. Fanta took a liking at her and treated her as his wife. FPJ's character is torn between the call of duty and the safety of his very own sister. The call of duty prevailed and the rebel group turned renegade was neutralized and its leader killed, with the help of military forces. The movie was released by Leah Productions, directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released March 15, 1981. Ang Maestro. Orphan Hernan, FPJ, becomes a ward of a fencing master and learns to be a skillful sword fighter. He crosses swords with the ruthless Ignacio de la Vega, who will stop at nothing until he has acquired the title Maestro. Ang Maestro, 1981. Released by FPJ Productions. Release date August 28, 1981. Story Carlo Caparas. Direction Ronaldo Reyes. Starring Fernando Poe Jr. Introducing Chat Salayan. Also starring Romy Diaz, Jose Romulo, Mario Escudero, Bert Olivar, Max Laurel, Nelo Neo, Ruben Ramos, and Paquito Diaz. Sambahin ang Nalan Imo. Crisanto, Fernando Poe Jr., was just a teenager when he witnessed the murder of his family, and when he reached the right age, he was ready to kill to get revenge. Will he be able to give justice to his family by arresting or killing the murderers? Also starring Techi Agbayani. Directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released October 3, 1981. Bandido S.A. Sapong Bato. Bandido S.A. Sapong Bato, 1981. Released by GPS Film Productions. Release date November 13, 1981. Direction Pablo Santiago. Starring Fernando Poe Jr., Marianne de la Riva. Also starring Paquito Diaz, Ruel Vernal, Rosemary Gill, Martha Sevilla, Jose Romulo, Victor Bravo, Max Laurel, Robert Rivera, Joaquin Fajardo, and Romy Diaz. Featuring Hero Bautista, Amay Bisaya. In a very special role Vic Vargas. Ang Pagbabalik Panday. This fantasy adventure film is a sequel to an earlier one about a smith's master who helps the oppressed combat the evil forces in their environment. Flavio, a young blacksmith, discovers a magical sword in a meteorite. With the help of it, he decides to fight Lizardo and his evil forces who are oppressing his hometown. Pagbabalik Panday is produced and directed by Fernando Poe Jr. It is the sequel to the 1980 film Ang Panday and stars Poe as the titular character, alongside Tina Revilla, Max Alvarado, Bintat Jr., Rosemary Gill, Lito Anzurez, Lillian Lang, and Sarah Carino. The film was released by FPJ Productions on December 25, 1981. As an official entry of the 7th Metro Manila Film Festival, Ang Panday, Ikatlong Yugto followed in 1982. FPJ 1982 movies. Pepeng Kalawit. Action King Fernando Poe Jr. plays the role of a former boxer with a deadly, adroit left hand. Directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released June 4, 1982.
Mane Dier si Commander.
A 1982 Filipino comedy. Film about a mechanic and womanizer who often gets into trouble with his jealous wife when women mistake him for being single. Starring Fernando Poe Jr. and Susan Rosas. Directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released July 29, 1982. Daniel Bartolo, Ng Sapong Bato, a man with a shady past, take matters into his own hands to settle a score when pushed to his limits. Daniel Bartolo, FPJ, is living a quiet life with his wife in which, according to him, he is neglected for a long time. This peaceful living, though, is disturbed by an old man from a nearby town seeking help from Bartolo. His granddaughter has been taken by the plantation owner's son, and to his distress wields power in their small town. Bartolo respectfully declines, and although torn chose to be with his wife. With a twist of fate, the same old man perishes, and with a dying wish to have his granddaughter returns safely. Finally mustering to take the responsibility, Bartolo confronts the plantation owner and his henchmen. From this confrontation, the story develops and delves into the further human emotion. Directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released September 10, 1982.
Ang Panday, Ikatlong Yugto.
The arrival of foreign created with an eye on the sky, and came to conquer the world with the aim to return in the next life the Lord of Darkness Lizardo. Directed by Ronaldo Reyes. Date released December 25, 1982. FPJ 1983 movies. Isang Balakalang. Starring Fernando Poe Jr. With Marianne De La Riva and Julie Vega. Birding, FPJ. A good cop tries his best to keep the oath that he made to his duty. After being convicted and jailed for 12 years for avenging his wife's death, he swore to evade trouble and live a peaceful life with his daughter Angela, Julie Vega. But how long can he remain in action if good people and the law do nothing as criminal elements continue to victimize innocent people? The movie is directed by Ronaldo Reyes. Date released April 15, 1983. IMDb 8.8/10. Kapag Buhay ang Inutang. Mario, FPJ, sets off on a journey to exact revenge on the people responsible for endangering the lives of his wife and daughter. Kapag Buhay ang Inutang is a 1983 action movie starring Fernando Poe Jr. with Eddie Garcia, Dang Cecilio, Josephine Manuel, and Paquito Diaz. The movie is directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released June 16, 1983. IMDb 5.6/10. Roman Rapido. This family saga that spans 2 decades, from the Japanese occupation to the 1950s, is adapted for the big screen from the radio serial that went on air in the 1950s. The movie is directed by Arjel Joseph. Date released November 13, 1983. IMDb 7.0/10. Umpisahan imo tatapusan ko, Delphin Prado, FPJ, a straightforward police officer who believes in carrying out his duties diligently, faces a number of problems from a corrupt officer and a powerful syndicate. The movie is directed by Ronaldo Reyes. Date released December 14, 1983. FPJ 1983 released movies.
Isang bala ka lang kapag buhay ang inutang. Roman Rapido. Umpisahan mo, tatapusin ko.
FPJ 1984 movies. Siga in Katarungan. An auto mechanic, FPJ, who believes in honest hard work, is the illegitimate son of a ardent man. He proves to be better than his father's legitimate children. Directed by Pablo Santiago. Date released March 15, 1984. Dang Hari. A former soldier lays down his gun after the war and comes home only to find his hometown in shambles. As a result of the conflict that he thought by the war that he fought, he takes up arms again to restore order in his town. Directed by Nilo Saiz. Date released August 16, 1984. IMDb 5.6/10. Ang Padrino. Ang Padrino is a 1984 Philippine action film. Co-written, produced, and directed by Fernando Poe Jr. The film also stars Poe as the titular Padrino, a local adaptation of the film, The Godfather. The film is notable for the casting of radio personality. Ray Langit as an antagonist in the film portrayed the character of the hired assassin who plots the slaying of the lead character, played by FPJ. Directed by Ronaldo Reyes. Date released December 6, 1984. IMDb 8.1/10. Ang Panday, Ikea Patna Aklat. The final book and chapter of this movie. Finally, Lizardo laid to rest. Flavio, together with the entire community, finally got the freedom from the evil darkness and henchmen of Lizardo. The movie was released on December 25, 1984. Directed by Ronaldo Reyes. IMDb 6.3/10. FPJ movies that was released in 1985. First movie released on that year was The Billiard Ball is Round, like the life of Carding, Fernando Poe Jr., which revolves around the billiard table. For the survival of his small family, as a master of the game, he's a prey to the big bets and vices of rich gamblers. He seeks revenge on them when he was falsely accused of playing the game backwards. Date released July 18, 1985. Directed by Pablo Santiago. FPJ made only 2 movies in 1985. Fernando Poe Jr.'s second released movie in 1985 is Partida. Ben Serrano, Fernando Poe Jr., known as a brave heroic cop of Metro Manila until something happened, changed his life. During a car chase, he accidentally crashes to the another vehicle, including the child of a rich family killed by car accident. Now a desperate family vows revenge against Serrano, forced to go in jail forever, or to be killed by the family who needs justice. Serrano will take matters to his own hands to fight against all odds. Date released November 21, 1985. Directed by Ben Yalong. IMDb 6.
Thank you for watching.